over here on the beat, boy.
Dropped off the kids to school this morning after 3 long weeks off for winter break, and as I was on my way to school, tuition's due tomorrow because it's due the 10th of every month, and I just happened to text, their dad, my ex-husband, not Walter, and I was like, hey, kids are back to school today, tuition's due, because he helps me pay half of their school tuition every month. And his response was typical, like every month. He said, hey, good morning, I'll make sure that gets to you. And I just thought to myself, I was driving and I was like, it is such a peaceful, I just realized that I haven't ever really shared what the co-parenting is like with my ex-husband. And the reason why I have never really gone into depth with it is because it's not what is entertaining, to be honest, right? A lot of you guys have been sucked into my drama with Walter because it is so entertaining. It is such a fucking shit show that's what's been entertaining, and that's what I have focused on. But I also want to talk about my circumstances with my ex-husband, because we really are co-parenting from 2 different countries, very successfully in my opinion, and without the need of court orders, which is starkly different than my situation with Walter. If you guys know, I have a lot of history with Walter, a lot of water under that bridge, and we required the assistance of court orders for simple things like me being able to talk to my kids while they were in the States. I literally had to get a court order for Walter to unblock me, to allow me to FaceTime with my kids, right? So there's a lot of things that I'm not going to go into detail of how bad it's been with Walter, but you guys know. And it's a stark difference. It's literally a complete opposite of what I have with the father of my oldest 3 kids. So I wanted to give you guys a story time. I met him when I was 13 years old in junior high, and we were together until I was 21. We got married when I was 18. We had our first baby at 18. We had our first baby a week after we got married. Yes, she was a part of the reason why we decided to get married. And we got married, we were doing our thing. We decided we wanted to have one more baby, and we ended up with twins. And at that time, we were 20 and 21 years old. And it was just a lot, right? We ended up with 3 babies under the age of 2. We were both very young. Who knows what they want in a partner when they're fucking 18 years old, right? Anyway, we went our ways at the age of 21. I filed for divorce. We had differences that it's really not worth going into. Just things didn't work out. And I always like to sum it up. Now that I look back, I'm like, we really just were too young. We were too young to know what we needed in partners. And we both had a lot of growing left to do, exploring, and trying to juggle that with, the parenthood of 3 very small, tiny babies that required and demanded so much. It just, it didn't work out. We definitely went through the first year or 2. So we divorced in 2012. And like any other couple, it took us a little bit to learn how to get along with each other, how to co-parent. We had a rough maybe year or 2 of, just learning to get along, learning how to share our kids. We did have, we eventually got our divorce decree finalized and a custody order, all of that shit. But for the most part, our court case has been very uneventful, very vanilla, in my opinion, compared to the experience that I've had, with my other children. And so fast forward to my deportation, him and I have always just kind of stayed out of each other's lives after our divorce. I've never really known what goes on in his personal life and vice versa. And I think that's a big part of why we don't fight a lot, because he minds his business, I mind mine when it comes to his personal life, and we really just deal with things that have to do with the kids directly. You know, I've been in other relationships, he has been in other relationships, and those things have never just intertwined when it comes to our kids. So anyway, fast forward to my deportation. He and I, prior to my deportation, you know, my kids were living with me full time. They have always lived with me. And, you know, he pays his child support, he pays his half of expenses, and he gets them every other weekend and a couple times during the week. Just like the typical co-parenting schedule that Utah has. Physical custody with me, and then, you know, he has his rights and his parent time. Now, when I got deported, you guys know it was very unexpected. Well, I don't want to necessarily say unexpected, but very quickly. Now, it's worth mentioning that Bryce and I have had at the time, I want to call it a friendship because I could lean on him. In fact, when my house got raided for my felonies and my children were home, and this was during a time that I wasn't speaking with Walter, and at the time I just had my 3 kids and Axel, and I was pregnant with Juji. So I had 4 babies in my home when the police raided my home. He was who I called, and he also took Axel with him. He removed our 3 kids and my baby that was not his from my home and got him to a safe place while I was arrested. And you know, so that to me, I always hang on to that very closely, because he didn't have to come through for my other son, but he did, right? He just kind of stepped up and said, I don't know what the fuck is going on here. He had no idea of any of my criminal activity, but he stepped in, he took the kids, and then he got them all to safe places while I went through my shit. There's been a lot of, you know, stuff that we have both gone through. There was a time when I was like 21, 22, where I was in a bad place, and he took our 3 kids and he had them for a few months until I got my shit together, and then, you know, he gave them back to me. So he's always been the type of father, in my opinion, that despite our differences, even if we're fighting or whatever the fuck, when something happens, when shit hits the fan, when he knows I'm not okay, he comes through for the kids, always. And that's, you know, that's important. It's kind of like, I see it a lot on social media, but some men really don't understand the concept of if your baby mom is not okay, your kids are not okay, right? So why go out of your way to make her life harder or fuck with her or any of that shit? So anyway, fast forward to my deportation, right? Well, once I was arrested and he came and picked up the kids, he connected with my family, and, you know, they started tag teaming the kids, like who's gonna take him here, who's gonna take him there. And you know, I went to jail, all that shit. Once I bailed out, the kids were, you know, at my mom's, and we all just kind of sat down, and I honestly don't even remember like the details of how I told him or what, you know, but he knew I was in some deep shit. He knew I was in some deep shit. And so as I was going through my custody cases, or I'm sorry, my criminal cases, you guys know I was pregnant and I was out on bail, and I was facing a long prison sentence for each felony. And so he knew that. We both knew that there was a possibility I could go to prison. And so we talked about what would happen in that case. We set up a legal plan for my kids, which involved giving guardianship to my mother. Now, giving guardianship to somebody in the state of Utah, at least, does not mean that you forego your custody plan, your rights, or, for example, the guardianship does not trump our divorce decree, which in our divorce decree we have, you know, a custody agreement. So we came to the conclusion that it was in our kids' best interest to, you know, set up a guardianship in case I went to prison and he was, you know, dealing with some stuff at the same time. There would be an adult that could legally vouch for our kids, take them here, do this, do that. Just somebody that can, you know, do like paperwork, take them to the doctor, enroll them if they need to travel, if they need to go visit this here or there, you know, we had somebody. And so once I went to my sentencing and I was not sentenced to prison, you know, we just kind of kept our plans like, okay, they're gonna stay with you and we're gonna keep doing what we do. And nobody really saw the deportation coming, at least that quickly and overnight. So when it did, my family stepped in and they took our kids, and he was kind of co-parenting with my mom, you know. Kids were living with my mom, and, you know, he would take them to school and pick them up, and he did, you know, what I couldn't, while I was in jail and dealing with all of my issues. And once I was deported, the issue arose, like, what's going to happen with the kids? You know, I'm here, you're there. He had nothing to do with my deportation. He had nothing to do with the drama in my life. He had nothing to do with my felonies. He had nothing to do with the mess that I had created for my life and our kids. And so when it came to, you know, time to kind of, okay, everything's settled, you're in Mexico now, the kids are here, what the fuck? What's gonna happen? So the initial plan, I carried a lot of guilt towards this situation because it was my fault that I had gotten deported, you know, that I had all these things that had happened in my life. And now we were in a position where he was in the States and I was here. And obviously I wanted my kids to be with me, but that meant taking them from him. And he had been present, he had been active, he had been a parent to them since day one, you know. And not all of our kids were planned, right? When we got pregnant with Amaya at 18, she wasn't planned, but he loved her from day one and he stepped up for her from day one. Our twins weren't technically planned. We only wanted one, but he stepped up for them too, although he was very young. He was very young. One thing I can say about him is that, yeah, he fucked up, you know, when it comes to our relationship, but that man always took care of his kids. So when it came down to, okay, where are they gonna live? I had guilt, and I didn't feel right with saying, okay, I just got deported, you know, I'm bringing them with me and fuck you. You know, I didn't have it in me to have that energy with him. And in addition to the fact that our kids were older, they were school-age kids when I got deported. And everything they do was in the States. Their school, their friends, their dads, they weren't babies. So ripping them out and just sending them over to Mexico, in my idea, was going to be traumatic to them. And so for the first year that, you know, I went through my custody case for the babies, you know, separately, my older children lived with my mother, and she co-parented with my ex-husband. You know, he would get them on the weekends or maybe a few days here. She pretty much filled into my role of when I was up there, right? So she was taking them to the doctor, this and that, or they were just juggling it together. You know, with my ex-husband, there was never a second where he made me feel like, you're gonna have to fight me to see these kids. You're gonna have to fight me to take them over across the border. That was never even like a thought for me, a feeling. I don't think he ever even made any statements. His main concern was, I want to be able to see my kids. You know, I need to be able to see my kids and have access to them. But he was also, he knew from the very get, and he was very supportive of the fact that they need to have access to their mom, because these kids love their mom, these kids know their mom, these kids have been with their mom their entire life. So he he was also seeing and helping the kids deal with the impact of losing their mom, right? So in those especially first few weeks and months, our kids were going through it. Amaya was old enough, you know, she was really breaking down. She did not understand. And so they leaned on him. You know, they had their dad, they had my mom, and, you know, I was in contact with him, and I remember conversations with him about the kids being upset and confused and not understanding, and him just hugging them and crying with them because he didn't know what to tell them. You know, we didn't know what my situation was going to be out here. We didn't know if I could have them. We didn't know where I was going to live. It was a lot of uncertainty for everybody, and the fear of the unknown of, when will I get to see them? When will I be in a place to have them? Because as much as I wanted to have them and he wanted them to see me too, you know, I wasn't in a place right away. You know, I had to figure out my life here. And so anyway, after so the plan was, you know, they're gonna be living with my family, and, you know, you guys will kind of co-parent. You're gonna co-parent with my family, really. And then from there, the plan was we would eventually transition them to living with him. That was the original plan, because I never wanted my mom to be raising my children. My mom is, you know, older. She has no business raising kids, and they're just, I mean, they were a lot of kids for her, you know. And so that was the plan, that they would go live with him and they would transition over to him once he was in a stable place and he had taken care of his own legal issues. Now, I didn't know how long that was going to take him. He didn't know how long that was going to take him. And before we knew it, 2 years had passed from my deportation, and my kids were still living with my mom. Now, you guys know that it did take me a year to get all of them down here, and the reason why I didn't bring, the 3 right away is because they were in school. We were kind of coming up with a plan. We didn't know what was going to happen. And so once I got clear to have the babies come down through the custody case with Walter, then, they all came down at once because affordability, I couldn't pay for my mom to bring me the 3 and then later on in the year bring me the 2. So we waited till they could all come down at the same time. They came down that first Christmas. And then they went back, right? They went back. They had to get back into school. And from there, the plan was that the older kids would visit me during the summer and they would do the school in the States and live with their dad. That changed, and it wasn't entirely planned. The living situation for my children was this, right? They would live with my mom. My mom worked very early. She worked at about 3 to 4 in the morning. And, their dad lived about 20 minutes away. So during the week, my kids would get themselves up by themselves. They would wake up to an empty house and they would get themselves ready for school. And their dad would come pick them up around, 7:30, something like that, and then take them to school. And so every morning they were by themselves. They didn't have, my girls were still very little. They didn't have anybody to help them with their hair. They didn't have anybody to feed them breakfast. So it was dry cereal every morning. They didn't have a parent in that home with them in the mornings. And it really hurt my heart, but that's the best we could do with the situations that we had, with the circumstances with my mother working early and their dad living over here. And there was reasons why they weren't living with their dad. And so it was when COVID hit, they were supposed to come down that summer. And there was an earthquake in Utah, a strong earthquake. And when that earthquake hit, my kids were by themselves at my mom's house in the morning. And because school had been canceled because of COVID, so all the kids were home alone. And everybody was like quarantining and nobody was going out. And because, their dad was in a different household and he was still working, he was like an essential worker. And so we didn't want the kids, with their dad because we didn't want to cross-contaminate. It was during a time where like germs were a huge thing, right? Nobody wanted to mix households because of COVID. So the kids ended up alone during the earthquake. Maya called me during that earthquake from a whole different fucking country. I was in Mexico, helpless, and I couldn't do shit. And they were in an earthquake by themselves. And I lost my shit so bad as a mother. The helplessness of not being there. And, they were okay. My sister ended up rushing over, and, my family, they worked together to get them taken care of. But that was the starting point of when I started to see, among other things, right? Like I would see pictures of them at school events and their clothes weren't matching or their hair was all messed up. And I was like, I would never have, it's because they don't have somebody in the morning with them. And then that happened with the earthquake that I was like, and then COVID was hitting and everything was like, nobody knew what the fuck was going to happen because COVID, that I was just like, I'm not like, I started looking at like the last couple of years that I was like, I felt like my kids didn't have stability. They were going from my mom's house to my sister's house to their dad's house, just ping-ponging. They didn't have like a permanent, well, they did. I mean, they lived with my mom, but I wasn't seeing stability in them, okay? And that wasn't supposed to be the plan. The plan had been that they were going to go with their dad, but it had been 2 years and they still were not. And so I started to kind of get upset, and I started to feel like they have not had stability since I have been gone. When I was there, I was what kept all of my kids together, because at that point the babies were actually living with my sister, and so my kids had been separated from each other, right? And so I started seeing I was what glued all my kids together. I was what gave them stability. By then I had, I was in a stable home down here. I had stable employment. I had a vehicle. And so I started feeling like, it's looking a lot more stable on this side of the border than on that side of the border for them. And so around COVID, they came down although it was COVID time. They came down for their summer visit, and nobody had predicted that COVID was going to last so long, right? And so school was still canceled at the end of the summer, and they were doing online classes. So we decided that, hey, I can keep them in Mexico and they can just go to school from here. So for that next year, they lived here and they did online classes for their school, or with their school in Utah from here. And so it was like a perfect thing for a second, because school had been one of the things that I was worried about. Like, can I afford private school? What are schools like out here? Because at that point, the babies still were not in school, and I was afraid of schools down here. So that first COVID year, you know, it worked out to where I could keep them longer, and they could go to school here. And now their dad wasn't entirely thrilled, because, you know, that meant they were staying longer. But he also understood like the circumstances and the need for stability, and it didn't affect their schooling. So, you know, hesitantly he agreed. And let me start by saying that it's not that we have never had like disagreements, or that we considered like, fuck this, maybe we'll take this to court, but we've never actually gotten there. Because even when we disagree about certain things, and that was one of the times, we may argue, you know, we may get hot-headed, but we always circle back, and we have always been able to talk calmly and make decisions rationally for the kids, even if we don't like it at the time. Just like when I got deported, I didn't like that they weren't going to be with me, but I knew it wasn't what was best for them to rip them out of everything they knew and to bring them down with me, because I needed them to be with me, right? When COVID hit, and, you know, all those things happened, and then they came down here with me, he didn't necessarily love them being a country away, and he also had that mentality that Mexico was like not safe, and like schools are bad and all that shit. But despite that, he knew like, okay, all these things that have happened, and that they're okay where they are right now, and I think that's what's best for them. And so reluctantly he agreed, and then they stayed, right? And then towards the end of that school year, so by then they had been coming, before we transitioned them over for that long year here, they had been coming to Mexico periodically, right? So it was like a transition for them, versus in the beginning, the thought of just bringing them into a new country and dropping them in it would have been traumatic. But by the time they got here permanently, they had been to Mexico several times for weeks and months on separate occasions. Their Spanish was a lot better because they had been doing dual immersion at their school in Utah. And so it wasn't like just dropping them into a foreign place, right? They knew PV. We had gone on trips during our summers together. So it was a very like gradual transition from, you know, visits to staying permanently. And so at the end of the year, at the end of the school year, you know, they then went to visit the States for 4 months. They visited their dad and his family. They visited my family, and then again they came back, and that was the first year that we did in-person school. So all of like these arrangements have never, it's like I've never had it in my mind, okay, my kids are going to live with me for the rest of their lives in Mexico. That has never been like our plan. We have just winged it, honestly, together. And there's been points where we have to reassess their situation. We have to make decisions. We have to change plans, original plans that we had, based on things that are evolving or changing. And we're able to do that, which is what I think is really important in having a good co-parenting relationship from this far away. Him and I, there's times where, you know, we call up and, hey, this is going on in my personal life and this can potentially affect the kids. I need you to know. For example, when everything happened with Walter 3-4 months ago, I had to call him and tell him, this is what's going on. I may need help. I may, you know, there was definitely concern for safety for both me and my kids. And, you know, I had to communicate that to him in case this happens, or, you know, I may need to send them back to you. There was a lot of things going on that I had to call him up and say. We typically don't talk about our personal lives, but when things happen, we do call each other and say, hey, this is happening. We need to come up with a plan for the kids. He's gone through it. I've gone through it. And we've developed developed, in my opinion, a friendship. I very much look at him as somebody that I can call if something happens and say, hey, I need help, or hey, this is going on, hey, do you have a few minutes? It really is just a very different relationship than, you know, my other co-parenting circumstance with Walter. And it honestly makes me feel, not to like sound bad, but like I'm fully capable of co-parenting. You know what I mean, bro? It is not me, it is you, bro. If I can make it work with, you know, my ex-husband from a country away without a court order, that tells me I'm capable. And I wish these were the circumstances in my other, you know, with Axel and Gigi's dad, but it's not. And it is what it is. It's never going to be exactly like I have with my ex-husband, but it just makes me feel like on days like today where I wake up and I'm like, hey, tuition's due tomorrow, hey, don't worry about it, I'll get it for you. Christmas, always finds a way to send, you know, them Christmas money so that he knows that I can provide a decent Christmas for them. Our trips, how do we manage our trips? I pay one way, he pays the other way. And that includes an adult ticket for either my family member or his family member to fly them back and forth. Their braces, I mean, he splits all of their expenses with me despite being here. And, you know, it is he is still legally ordered to do so, but it's nothing that I've ever had to legally enforce. Like, if I call this man and say, hey, I just had to, you know, buy this for your son or whatever, he'll come through, you know, and do what he can. So it was actually off topic, but when all this shit happened with Walter, and he did attack my ex-husband and say that my ex-husband is this and that, never pays child support, I was kind of floored, because I was like, that is so far from the truth of what our circumstances actually are. And he knew that. And so I was definitely sad that my ex-husband was dragged into it and, you know, attacked and dragged into shit that had nothing to do with him, and then had his fatherhood picked at, when honestly his fatherhood compared to this other fatherhood is top tier. You know, I'm not saying that my ex-husband doesn't have things to work on, and there's not things I wish he did differently, did more of. I'm sure we both have those things about each other, but our base is solid. And I know that, and my kids know that they can count on their dad. My kids know that their dad is present. My kids know that they can pick up the phone and call him. My kids know that they can go see him. My kids know that he encourages a relationship with me. My kids know it's not just about what I feel. Like, if you ask my kids about their dad, they'll tell you themselves, and that's not from anything that I've done. That's from their dad being present. That's from their dad being, you know, a part of their life, even from a country away. There are ways to be present from a country away. There's things that you can do from a country away. I've lived it and he's lived it. And the kids pick up on that. They really do. Now, our situation is not ideal. My kids definitely miss their dad all the time. But they have grown accustomed to this back and forth of traveling. And I paint it to the kids as, you are blessed. You're privileged that you get the best of both worlds, that you get to spend summers here or summers there, and you get to fly back and forth, and you guys travel every year multiple times a year. You have both of your parents, although you don't have them at the same time or in the same zip code. You have both of us, right? You get him for a few months, and then you get mom for a few months. You gotta go and do all this shit in the US for a few months, and then you gotta come and do all this shit in Mexico for us. So in the beginning, although there was a lot of uncertainty and fear, this has become our norm now. For me, my ex-husband and his family, and the kids. That the kids fly back and forth, and everybody gets to have them. And they get to have everybody. They get to have my family, and they get to have his family. And that has come with us being open to learning and adapting. Because I'll tell you one thing. If today something happened to me, or something happened here where this was not the best place for them, I would not hesitate to send them home to their dad. I wouldn't. Because that is what's best for them. Even as much as I would want to keep them, as much as, you know, I would miss them, I feel like him and I have always been able to make the decisions that are best for them, even when they're painful, and even when they aren't what we want for ourselves as parents. Because naturally, every parent, or a good parent at least, wants their kid with them every day, or wants to be able to see them every day and have access. But sometimes circumstances like this happen, right? And my ex-husband, like I said, he had nothing to do with the poor choices that I made. He is somebody that has been also a victim of my poor choices, that he now, we have this situation. But now I think we both, with 5 years have passed, and we've grown and we've evolved and we've adapted. Most importantly, we have adapted together as co-parents to where this is actually a blessing for us, for our kids to have the best of both worlds. Now going forward, Mark, we have a teenager, and my other two are gonna hit their teens soon. So eventually, we're gonna have 3 teens, and Maya has expressed, desire to study or to go to high school in the States. And when that time comes, they will probably go and spend the school year with their dad, and then come back for summers. That's kind of what I have in mind. We haven't made any decisions yet. Maya's still kind of on the fence now, because at this point, this has become home for them too. And they like it. They like it here. They like school here. And they've noticed the difference in the culture, the way kids are at school, etc. And they prefer here. But there's also that want to, maybe go back and do school up there. So when that bridge comes, we'll cross it together. And I've always told the kids, one day at a time. I tell them one day at a time. Our circumstances are so unique that I can't tell you, yes, you're going to live in Vallarta until you're 18 years old, right? Because there's a need to adapt. Sometimes things happen, sometimes things change, and we got to change the original plans that we had. And that may happen again. And I always tell them, think of how quickly our life changed when I got deported. I said, do you remember? I said, we thought we had everything planned out, and we were going to do this, and we were going to do that. And just like that, everything changed, and we had to adapt. And they're like, yeah. I said, so after my deportation, I no longer make long-term plans. I don't. When people ask me, what are your goals? I just be fucking winging it now, because life has humbled me and taught me that it can change in the blink of an eye. You can have your entire life mapped out, and the next day everything changes. And so when I'm talking to the kids about our living situation, are we gonna go here, are we gonna go there, I always tell them, look, the most important thing is that we're together as a family. That's the most important thing. And then I tell them, we're gonna take one day at a time. We're gonna see how things work out this school year here, and then at the end, if we need to reassess and you guys aren't comfortable, or you want to go here, or maybe dad's in a different place, then we can reassess. But right now, today, this morning, being here is what's in your best interest. Being here is what gives you stability. And they feel it too. I've talked to them, and I said, think back to those 2 years after mom was deported. What was life like? And they would tell me that they felt like they were extras, around my mom's house, around my sister's house, and around their dad's house, because they were just going from house to house, and shit really fucked with me. And so I tell them, what has life been like since you came here? And they said it. I didn't put it. They said stable. They said that this is home. This is home. They have their rooms. This has become rock for them again, right? Because in their entire life, I feel, from my perspective, that I am what gives them stability. I am what gives them a foundation. I am what gives them a rock. And then from there they branch out, right? They can go, they can visit, they can come, but they know they always get to come back home. They have their home safe place with mom. And that's how it's always been. But as they grow older, into their teenage years, that's gonna change. They're gonna start spreading their wings, and they're gonna want to go spend time with dad, or maybe spend a year here, maybe even go spend a year with my mom. Who knows, right? But they know that they can always come back to mom. So anyway, I'm rambling, but that is kind of what my situation is, with my ex-husband. And I'm very, very grateful for it. I could not imagine having 2 baby daddies that I had to fight in court to see my kids after my deportation. And, bless his heart for always understanding and encouraging the relationship with me and the kids. And vice versa. I've always known that their dad is irreplaceable. I have had relationships, I've had live-in partners, I've been engaged, but nothing can ever replace their father, who has been around for them since day one. And that is the difference, in my opinion, from my other situation with Walter. He has not been around from day one. He has not formed that initial bond, that initial stability with them that the kids recognize. You know what I mean? When Bryce and I divorced, Maya was 2, and then the twins were 9 months old. Okay, they were teeny tiny when we separated. But because Bryce was constant and around, regardless of us or not being together, their bond with him was not disrupted. Okay, now you guys know this other situation, very different, very, very different. They don't have that bond with him because he chose not to create it. He chose not to be there, you know, during their baby stages. He chose not to be there unless there was something in it for him, or unless we were together, or whatever. Those were his choices, not mine. And so whenever I come across some of this shit, like, oh, she's just bitter, won't let him see his kid. No, bro, no. Like, I am fully capable. I have another situation. I have another baby daddy in America that sees his kids, that has access, free flowing access to his kids in another country without the need for a judge to break everything down for us. And that comes from 2 adults being able to make decisions for the kids, with the kids, you know, for the kids only, not for us, not for what I want, not for what my ego wants, not for what, you know. And in my opinion, my situation with Walter, part of the reason why we struggle so much is because he can't let his ego down. His ego is larger than anything, and it beats the love for his kids. I mean, your ego will have your ego will fuck you up in every aspect of your life, period, in general. For me too, there's times where I realize I'm being, my ego's in the way, you know. But I'll be goddamned if I ever let my ego get in the way of my kids, you know. When I got deported, I really had to humble down. I had to kiss ass. I mean, imagine my relationship with Bryce. Or, I mean, imagine the situation with my ex-husband where he didn't even fucking know what the fuck I was doing, right? And all of a sudden, I'm in jail, I'm getting deported, and I have to explain. And, you know, and even then, you guys, because I know there's a lot of you, or a lot of people that are like, oh, if she really loved her kids and this and that, or, you know, she wanted to put them there, she fucked up, she shouldn't have done this. Granted, I shouldn't have done it. But that, coming from the father of my kids, it was never I need to take my kids from her. Like, how do I explain this? If anybody should have ever felt or been entitled to take my kids from me, I would have expected it to be my ex-husband. And he didn't. He didn't. You know why? Because regardless of what was happening with me, what was happening with him, he knew and he understood that the kids needed me. The kids loved me. They needed to have a relationship with me. They needed to have access to me because I had been their parent their entire life. They didn't know a life without me, right? And so when that same like mentality was like the opposite with my other, you know, with Walter, and he was like, he knew that I was their only, mind you, the baby didn't even know Walter. The baby was nursing, and even then he was like, no, they don't need her, they'll be fine without her, they'll be good, they'll be alright, you know. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I had just 2 completely separate type of fathers, you know what I mean? And that's been sometimes hard to deal with, because I'm like, I have this great, you know, situation here, and then this fucking terrible one, and I just don't understand how this one, you know, is so different to this one. And I think I wish this one was more like this one, because this one fucking gets it, this one doesn't get it. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm at the gym. I just wanted to give you guys story time of what my co-parenting relationship and history is like, and even current date, right? Like this morning I just texted him like, hey, tuition's due tomorrow, and he's like, yeah, don't worry, I'll get that to you. His Venmo payments come through his, you know, baby mom's Venmo account, like literally every month. for school tuition, I just go on Venmo, I request it from his baby mama, and she sends it right over. He has, a new relationship. Well, it's not new. He's been in a long-term relationship for a few years. They have their own family. And even something as simple as that, right? Like, I don't get pushback from her. I don't have her. She is not any way part of our co-parenting. At least from my perspective. I'm sure they have conversations like every couple does, but she doesn't interfere. We've actually never had a conversation, her and I. He keeps us both very separate. He's a smart man. He knows how to keep things neutral, how to keep, one relationship out of another co-parenting, and how to keep co-parenting out of his relationship. And I believe that is why he doesn't have baby mama drama or ex-wife drama. You know what I mean? And that is something that I was thinking about today. Like, my ex-husband really sets the tone in this, co-parenting relationship, because if he didn't, if he was a type to allow his other baby mama to interfere or to get in the middle, that would cause issues, like any relationship, right? And vice versa. If I was interjecting into their relationship and this or that, that would affect theirs. So he knows that it's important to keep us separate, not because we don't get along, like we've met, etc., but because one thing has nothing to do with another, and that works for us. And the same thing with my relationships. My relationships have nothing to do with my co-parenting. Now, I do tell him sometimes, like, when it's appropriate. For example, when the shit happened, the DV incident, I had to communicate that to him. But just in general, shit like that. My hopes are, actually this year, I had invited them to come down and meet us in a border town for Christmas, because I wanted to gift my kids for Christmas a trip with their dad, because they haven't. It's been 5 years since they've been able to have both parents for Christmas. We weren't able to make it happen because he just started a new job, and finances weren't right. But my goal is, my wish, my dream is that one day he will be able to come down with his family, with his other children, with his other baby mama, and we will all be able to vacation together, or have him come down and spend time with the kids and see where they live. And that may be kind of odd for some people. Like, I would never hang out with my ex and his new whatever. I would. Because I really look at him like a friend. I don't really see, this is someone that I've known since I was 13 years old. We have grown together. We have literally watched each other grow up. There is a level of friendship and respect that we both carry for each other, and me seeing him with someone else, or and vice versa, is just like, it doesn't really affect us, you know what I mean? And the thought of having all my kids, or having my kids, obviously not all of them, but having the 3 kids with their entire family, me, their dad, their other sibling, all of that, like, the thought of that gives me so much joy to be able to give that to them one day. So that is our goal. I keep pressuring him to, go do this, go get your passport, so you guys can come down. They live very close to the border, so it would be a quick, like, road trip to come spend time out here, and we would just have to fly up there. So anyway, that is my goal, and I hope that 2023 will bring us together for that. Our daughter is turning 15. Quiero una quinceañera down here, and so he has to be present for that. So my goal, my hopes is that he can come down with his baby, with his BM, and host his party with us, and have all our kids together with all of their parents, because at the end of the day, now let's talk about that too. Like, how do I feel about his other relationship? Because she's been around for years. They're not married, but that is his partner, his longtime partner, who he has another family with. And my kids love her. My kids express good things about her. Has there been issues? Yes, like in any situation, that have been addressed, that have been communicated, that have been received respectfully, that have been communicated respectfully. And it's just one neutral ground for these kids to be able to go back and forth to be loved by everybody, to receive love from both sides of the family, and to give love to both sides of the family, right? To not feel any type of guilt or feel bad about bonding with his new partner, and vice versa. There's so many components to this, you know, to this topic. Anyway, I'm at the gym now, so that's all I got for you guys today. Drop your questions in the comments, and maybe I'll do a follow-up video.